All right. We'll have to give this a few seconds to a moment. If anybody would hit a Y or hello, that would be awesome. So I can tell if it's coming through. Yeah, looks like it's here. All right. So right now we are sitting with no questions on hand. And I am with Mandy Obrien of Bombard's Body Language. How are you doing today, Mandy?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Well,
So,
we moved out in the middle of nowhere, and it was a 2-hour drive to the Social Security office. So it's like, drive.
really,
Yeah.
why do you want
When
to
I
be so
said
far?
middle of nowhere,
Why do you want to be so far out?
I have a lot of faith in Trump, but human nature is human nature, and cycles are cycles, and pain's coming.
So you foresee that the great economy is not going to hold up?
I wouldn't even call it the great economy at this moment. Even prior to that, it's just you had so much debt. You can just look at the debt bubble itself, the everything bubble. You knew it was going to burst eventually. And now you've got this new mix, and it's China with
Mm,
its dreaded knees. And I don't really know if that's true or not, but I can tell you some of the things going on that you see kind of make you go, they're not. They pretty much embargoed the entire world, and then the US is doing like these little retaliatory things that just make you go, so are we at war still? I thought we had a trade agreement. Like the
mhm.
State Department labeling, I don't remember, I think it was 6 or 8 companies as foreign missions. So where
Mm,
now they have
mhm.
to check into the State Department and they have to tell the State Department everything about themselves, all their properties and their monies. And it's like, okay. You still got the Huawei thing going on where they're
Right.
going over to the other countries and telling them, if you sign up for them, that's going to be some repercussions with us wanting to actually share intelligence with you.
Yeah,
It's kind
England
of
is
like,
going through that right now with the 5G, I
yeah,
believe, and Huawei, but it's a weird spot too because of Brexit going on at the same time.
yeah. It's it's like something more is going on than the surface you see, but just the little things like the tit for tat things. And you just kind of like, because oddly enough, we still have tariffs on them. The tariffs never actually came off.
Right.
It's because everything's on hold. So you haven't taken tariffs off, and they haven't bought anything. So
Well, now you were, um, I'm going to say skeptical about the coronavirus, but it seems like that may actually be a little bit worse than came to mind.
like I said, I don't know. I look at their numbers, and still the flu is still the deadliest thing.
Sure.
I mean, it's still the deadliest thing. So if it gets worse than the flu, then I'll be like, oh. But if everybody can breathe and walk around in life and be happy when thousands of people are dying a day from the flu, then the coronavirus is nothing.
Okay, fair enough. But I worry about it in the sense that it is in China. We don't have real visibility in there, and they're sealing
Yeah,
off
and I agree
entire
with you on that
cities.
one. So we look at what we can see, which is we
Right.
got the cruise ship, and then we have the patients that we've brought back and who they're infecting. And
Yeah.
even those numbers are really disappointing.
Disappointing. As in, not
As in
enough.
they're not killing anybody, and the hype is kind of
Oh,
like, "Oh,
okay.
hype, 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 hype." It's like, well, this was a no-show.
Well,
So
that's
you brought
true.
all these people back. And I remember I was watching a Washington Post. The Washington Post reporters are sitting in a hotel in the Marine base in San Diego, and they're showing what their quarantine looks like, and they're all together. Okay, so one person's infected so far, and they're all hanging out, and that person is reportedly doing fine. So it's like, okay, well, it's not that bad. It's just not that bad. You got the other little spots that coming up, and everybody who's got it is all transmission from China. You're not
Right.
actually seeing the transmission from person to person actually in the countries yet. And I say
Mm,
yet because that could change any moment. But
right.
when you start seeing that, oh yeah, person A that came from China gave it to 30 other people in this country. And then it'd be like, oh, okay, now we've got something. But we're not seeing that.
Right. And I know that you had brought up the flu as being the number one killer, and we could be headed to something on that too. I don't know. It's been 100 years since the Spanish flu,
That's
and the
true.
Spanish flu was the one time, from what I understand, and I know you study nursing, but with the flu, you either have something that's really deadly or something that's really contagious. And the Spanish flu is the one time that the two of them happened at the same time with the same virus.
I think it's a combination of things. You look at the nutrition level of these places. I will think of it here. Most of the people anywhere in China, even in China, in here, all over the place, people don't have deficiencies in their diets.
Mhm.
They eat really good. So their immune systems are actually really strong. And even looking at the coronavirus from the reports from China and some of the people that have died outside of China, they're
Right.
always noticing these people have secondary conditions. So they're
Sure.
not dying strictly from the coronavirus.
That makes sense. And they're elderly. And we also have a problem too where we're a little overprotective.
Yeah.
Like kids who grow up on farms that are around dander and animals and things like that tend to have a higher resistance level, whereas we have, hand washing stations all over the place.
Well, yeah. What is it? Well, there was a study done. It was about gastrointestinal issues. I don't want to say GERD. It was another one, but they found that if they actually gave the patient worms, and I don't remember which worms it was, but if they gave the patient just kept a low thing of worms in them, their gastrointestinal issues went away because they're finding it was autoimmune. The body had nothing to fight, so it fought itself. So they gave it
Mm.
worms. The body goes, we have something to fight. Fight the worms. Gastrointestinal issues go away.
Oh, that's wild. That makes me think of like how they have poop in capsules and you can transfer poop from a healthy person to a bad person. I mean to a sick person. It's like, wow, everything's
But
crazy.
there was just those little things. But I don't know. The coronavirus is kind of like, well, when I start seeing it where we actually have good intel outside of China from reputable places, then it's like, oh, okay, now we actually see what's going on. But what we see outside of China is nowhere near the contagion or the spread. And all I can think of, the conspiracy theory that it was released on purpose or by accident, whatever,
Mm.
from that facility. And that is how so many people were infected, because that would make sense. Because if
Mhm.
it's not spreading via people to people to people, just anywhere else, then it's got to be.
Conspiracy accident though, or conspiracy deliberate?
Oh, that one's a hard one. It's kind of, where do you go mentally? Why would China do this to themselves?
Right.
Because that
And I
would be the
kind of
big question. Why would they do this to themselves?
Hanlon's razor, right? Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah, I have heard of that.
That I always try to apply that, which is essentially never ascribe to malice, which can be explained by stupidity, essentially,
Yeah.
or that which can be explained by stupidity. And I always assume that somebody's stupid. And I've been around, I've been around bureaucratic institutions like the military. You've been a cop, and I'm sure that you can acknowledge that no people are that stupid. And you
Yeah,
can have a
yeah.
chain of stupid decisions that create a calamity.
Yeah. I read an article, I think it was Reuters. It was one of the alphabet gangs, but it was
Mhm.
talking about Jinping and his little thing that he was. It was like one of his first little messages to the people, and just reading what he was saying, it was like, okay, well, he's freaking out, which makes me think that they didn't purposely do it to themselves, or at least in his world, the way he's freaking out about it.
Mhm.
Like, go to work. Well, we will get through this. It's like,
Now,
oh
have you
Lord.
done any readings on any of the experts, coming out and talking about the virus?
I sit there and saw some of the what they say DNA splice with AIDS in it. I looked into that. I've seen some of their what they're guessing on its virulence. But the one thing I did find, and I cannot for the life of me remember the website, but it was one of those stats websites where they get the data collections. What do they call them things? I'm having a brain fart. The studies,
Okay.
actual studies.
Right,
And
right.
study population that they had, for one, which was probably the most accurate, was only 1,300 people. And of those 1,300 people, 71% of the ones that are catching the disease are male. I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay. And then, of course, the high majority of them dying are the ones with secondary infections. It's like, oh, okay. So it's not the best number to have for a study, but it's a hell of a lot better than another study I saw that was under 500. I was like, eh. You don't get any real good picture of it. That, and now all these studies you see are, from what I can see, are coming out of China, so they're not coming from anybody else.
Well, perfect. Now I see that some people are starting to come in. Anybody who has any questions of Mandy about body language, about current events, and how people are reacting, please post them in the comments. And speaking of body language and current events, did you watch any of the debate or highlights from the debate?
I saw some highlights and I was like, oh, this one looks funny as hell. That's the thing. I don't know how Bloomberg completely acted to the whole thing because, highlights really don't show what's really going on. They can say that he's like the Tulsi Gabbard now. She's not on the debate stage from what I understand, but now he is the one replacing her and calling out some of the radicalness that's coming out. You're a communist and it never works. And I think, oh my God, he speaks.
Kelly Martin, who's Imlai in the comments, just commented the virus was in a 2006 book by Dean someone naming
Koontz? Are you doing Koontz? Dean Koontz, I think she's referring to.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I sit there, I saw that, and I went to go listen to the audio book for it. I didn't get very far. But yes, Wuhan 100, I think it was called in the book, if it's the Dean Koontz book.
Yes.
I think that's what it was.
Yes, she just typed in yes. Fantastic.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder about some of these things, how accurate. It kind of really gets me with the whole Bart Simpson, it is Bart, the Simpsons, and Trump's coming down the escalator, that scene that famously plays, and this little sign drops down in the clear glass window, and you look at the real life, what happened later, and it's the exact same thing. It's so weird. It kind of blows my mind, and my little crazy self goes, time travel. Then I sit there and think of Dean Koontz as he's naming that, because technically that couldn't be, or maybe not time travel. It could just be that they knew about this disease. It was one of their fallbacks of, this could be when we need it, something to infect the world with, bioweapon. And from what I understand, it's an American patent. So
Kelly says they always say they warn you in entertainment.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that too.
Well, now Kelly is a private investigator, and she's used to digging into what she's told, and I think also what she's told not to. So she has a habit, and will go into and get obsessive about things, I guess. I think that's
it's not a bad thing. I mean, I think those people are needed. I mean, it seems like every society, every little village has its snooper. Every little village has its detective. Every village has its enforcer police. Every village has its idiot, and every village has a leader.
True. She wrote, yes, it was USA, yet by Australian and Asia scientists.
I do wonder, though, if it was true that it was stolen. That would be curious. And if they stole it, like you said, could it be the just pure stupidity that didn't know how to handle it or deal with it in proper BioWare?
Oh, I'm sure. Or just systems break down. I mean, you know how it gets. You're doing training, you're training over and over, and then it's kind of boring. And nothing has happened anyway for the past 20 years. So why are we doing this stupid drill?
Yeah. Or you throw something away that's infected and you put it in the trash that is not for medical waste.
And ironically, you've done it 100 times before too.
Yeah. Well, nothing ever happened before. And the other trash is full.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to walk all the way over there.
Yeah.
Uh, Kelly said population control. Oh, let's hope not.
Well, you know what? She says that, and you think back to what I said with the 1300 study with 1300 people, and the
Mm.
71% that were male that died or not died that were infected, and it's like, well, China does have a male issue with their
Yeah, their
population.
own issue, their own one-child policy
Yeah.
that helped create the
So
male issue.
what better way of getting rid of it than having a virus that really just targets men?
I don't like this virus.
When I sit there and read that, I told all the boys in the house, it's like, well, I'm safe. You guys are screwed.
Well, we've got our first official body language question, which is fantastic. Have you ever been wrong in any of your body language reading, or have you misread?
There was that not China. God, I got China on the brain. That Saudi Arabian prince, I mistook his tick for his stress. I guess I didn't realize it was a tick. It was just stress. Technically, I guess it was just stress coming through because when you're stressed, the tick comes out really bad. But
Sure.
I didn't realize it was a tick.
Well, what was your conclusion before you found out it was a tick? I didn't see
I do
that
not
part.
remember. We're talking about a video that was like 3 years ago. But it
Okay.
was something along the lines of he seemed like a really good guy. I just remember how I feel about him now that it's not really changed. He seemed like a really nice guy,
Hmm.
but he's really, really stressed, which makes me distrust him.
Oh, okay. But if it was a tick, then it's like, oh no, he might really be a nice guy just with a weird tick.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that kind of thing? Like, people are on the spectrum. I think I talked about it a little bit in our interview before, but how, since you actually worked in a nursing home type of environment, you have dealt with people on the edge, but how do you compensate?
For my own mental health.
No, for reading them, because I imagine they're throwing off all kinds of weird signals, like a paranoid schizophrenic
Oh,
may act differently than someone else.
well, first off, it's kind of like everybody has their own baseline.
Hmm.
It's like, an individual, and it's like you can map them faster if you can read people.
Hmm.
So once you map them, it's kind of like that's their map. And it's very rare for especially a mentally ill person to deviate from the map. So you
Okay.
would sit there, and if I saw the paranoid person who's being himself and his paranoia and the little things, if all of a sudden he actually started acting normal, he's gone off the map.
Hmm.
Something is wrong. I need to pay attention. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I see people. They've mapped. So all these politicians that I watch a lot of, or even the criminals that I do for the payers, they've all got maps, and that's what you look for. You start to map them, and I tell you what, if I see them all the time, the map is easier to recall.
Hmm.
If I don't see them that much, I have to watch them for a minute. Oh yeah, that's them. That's your map. That's how you act.
Do you have any kind of quick reads now? I imagine you're a patrol cop, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that to me would be a scenario where you would need to have a baseline as soon as possible.
It would be it would be helpful. Not everyone gives off, because when you're in an ugly neighborhood,
Hmm.
people are going to be stressed regardless. Either they're in fear of being jumped
Sure.
or they're in fear of being pulled over by a bad cop,
Right.
if that makes sense. It's kind of like they'll be stressed for many reasons. You just can't take it as stress as that's it.
Right. That's fair.
So the other thing that you look for, like anyone will tell you, all cops will sit there and tell you, where are they at? What time is it? What are they wearing? Are they sneaking around? That would be the big one, sneaking around. Just looking kind of shady and in a scared or stressed position in a bad neighborhood is not enough to sit there and go, something's wrong. They're the bad guy.
Okay. And how so that's how you parse it out then, is just They're being sneaky, I guess, as you said.
I give you. I give you. There is a dude hanging around the projects,
Hmm.
and there is this. Well, it's kind of like a box cage, but it's covering the cable systems for all the projects for like cable TV and things.
Hmm.
And he's hanging up against the wall. Not it's freezing temperatures at nighttime. He's dressed warm, so that's not odd. But he's near something that has a reputation of getting broken into and
Hmm.
rewired to give people free cable. So it's like,
Okay.
I'm going to watch you. Do you understand? It's kind of like, I'm going to watch you. It'd be like people hanging out in front of a store.
Right.
Okay, so if one person's hanging out in front of a store and they're not constantly looking at the door,
Right. Like they're
that's
waiting for
what you're looking.
somebody.
I'm waiting for somebody. But if I'm sitting there and I'm stressed position and I'm looking, so just walking up to this person and asking them if they need help. One, I'm not violating their rights. And
Okay.
two, I'm letting them know I notice them
Hmm.
if you're acting shady because something's obviously wrong.
Right.
If that may, I mean, you're never
Yeah.
going, there's no body reader that can look at people and go, that's the criminal.
Well, okay. From what you're describing, though, is I almost would say common sense.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't look like they belong,
Yeah, pretty much. You don't look like you belong. That you don't automatically assume, because again, they could be looking for a ride.
sure.
They could literally just be, gotten out of a bad situation and ran to a lit place that's in public to stay safe. And they may
True.
just be looking for that person to come after them. You have no idea, because a lot of times people sit there, especially females, and sometimes young men, to get away from a bad environment, will go to a public place to get a breath, hopefully let the situation cool down.
Fair enough. Well, we've got a nice question from Kelly here. Is it hard for you to read a narcissistic psychopath like her uncle who killed many people yet is a perfect inmate and the state wants to release him after 9 years? Perfect nice guy in there.
No, psychopaths aren't actually that hard to read. They always have like I said, people have maps.
Hmm.
If I'm a stranger on the street to you, and this is
Right.
typically of a psychopath who's looking for prey. And I'm all of a sudden, you're out there with your family, you got kids around you or something. Oh, your children are so pretty. Okay. It's normal once, right?
Mm.
But a psychopath is trying to, one, stop you and gain your attention and your trust. And usually it's a good way to do it. So then the compliment continues.
Hmm.
And we're trying to break down walls. It's like, okay, one time's good. We're not buddies and I'm not trying to talk to you. I've got other things I'm trying to do.
Mm.
We're not we're not at church.
Right.
And then they continue. It's like, something mentally isn't right up here. And then as they continue, and if you're paying attention, you'll start to see what they're doing. I had one sitting behind me at a basketball game. He wouldn't leave me alone. And then he found out who we were. He was our ex-realtor. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And he was like, as soon as he figured it out, he stopped because he knew. But anyways, you sit there and you have that person, what they're doing is trying to break you down. They're trying to mentally open your mind up to where you can't think. And then you can't respond appropriately, or you'll say yes to things that you normally wouldn't.
Okay.
So you have to slow down mentally dealing with these people, be firm and tell them, no, I'm not interested, or thank you, I need to move on, regardless of what you're doing. But that is the psychopath. It says something is wrong. And you can get someone who's special. They're a little mentally slow. They'll do that just because they're just super friendly. But they're meeker. They're quieter. And they're like puppies. And it's like you almost literally see their butts wag as if they had a tail. But they're not threatening because they're quiet. They're down slow. Whereas a psychopath tries to fake little, but at the same time stand up to take. So they show strength, and then at certain times they'll show submissiveness. And then they'll continue on this line of schmoozing that makes no sense to some stranger to them.
They're I always like using the term, but they're gaslighting essentially. Push pull, push pull, push pull to
Yeah,
keep you always
and in some ways, yeah, gaslighting can be put in there, part of their thing, but it's like a lot of compliments that make no sense, and at the same time trying to break you down.
Interesting. And how would you have you dealt with these, separate types of people, like a psychopath versus a narcissist?
I've never. Hold on, that's my son. My Marine son is texting me.
All right.
He says, "Can I call you in 5?" Sorry, guys. He's about to deploy to the Middle East, so.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Anyways, I always look at them as the same. The psychopath, I know they have like a lot of terms, and psychology is really just, I think they've ruined it. They've made it so complicated. They want to put people in all these categories, but so many of it runs together now. You could just call it like they call all autism. They're all autistic, but there's just a spectrum. And I think that's just what they need to do with psychopaths. They're all psychopaths. They're just on a spectrum.
Right. I think I read that every psychopath is a narcissist, but not every narcissist is a psychopath.
That I would beg to differ with, but okay.
Well, no, but
I've never met just a plain narcissist that actually cared about anybody else. So if they ever find a narcissist that actually cares about somebody else, it'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. But when we don't find that person, it's like the coronavirus. Where's it at?
Okay. And I've also read that that autism is similar or almost like a cousin to psychopathy. Both of them are unable to actually feel empathy.
Considering I have an autistic person downstairs,
Mhm.
I know that one intimately, and I would have to say that's a no.
Okay.
That is definitely a no.
How is he to read, or she?
He's an open book. The boy can't lie to save his life.
Okay.
He really can't. He's very meek. He's very quiet. When he does raise his voice, when he fights for something, it's like it's like you mentally watch him climb the mountain to do it. And when he cares about something or someone's into his little group, it's like his mission in life to be the hero.
Okay, so that implies some degree of empathy or involvement.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I mean, he is very compassionate towards the animals. They're his best friends, I guess, because mentally he can deal with them better. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why people are saying that, because these people that are autistic generally they're like little kids. They get along with littler people.
You know what? That makes sense. There's I can't remember her name. I want to say it's a T. I want Temperance or something, but she's someone who is an autistic, and she's a veterinarian, and she goes around and designs like slaughterhouses and things to help calm the animals when they go through.
Yeah, well, that would make sense because she empathizes with them. It's like, your life's over, but I know people are going to eat. So the better I can make it, why not?
Yeah. So yeah, that reminded me of that. I wish I remember her name offhand. Question: is there a tell sign that all liars do? From Ginny.
You know what? There really isn't. It's like you got to map them. You always have to map them, because the guy who's lying to you because he's in fear of his life is not going to be the same guy who's lying to you because he's having fun. So it's Hillary Clinton lies to you. She's smiling while she does it. That's how it is. If Trump lies to you, and he has lied.
He lies all the time.
He gets tight. It's like his body doesn't like it, which is good because you definitely want somebody whose body doesn't like it because it means that they don't make it a habit. It's not their habitual thing to do. Whereas Hillary Clinton's body is fine with it. It's like, aha. So when you look for those kind of maps and you see her lying, then you got to search and look around in the face and see what she's doing. Is she actually having memory on any of this, or is she literally pulling it out of her butt? Is she accessing construction so much, or is she looking? Does this sound good coming out of my mouth?
Is it harder to read somebody who lies all the time? And by that I mean, if like there are some people who just lie. I mean, it's like every other sentence is not truthful, so they're so comfortable with it. It's like breathing. Are they harder to read than someone who's not?
Yes and no. Yes, for the person that has a lie like that. Like they can sit there and lie about anything, anytime, and have it ready to go. Whereas a lot of people, they've got to think about it. Oh, I'm going to lie. Let me think about this. Oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Because they got to map it out in their brain. Then they've got to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to tell it like this so it's believable. And I'm going to act like this because it's believable. Whereas the person who can come up with it like this, because they're so practiced, it's like second nature to them. So then you look at them as like, so are they in portrayal? And because usually when these people are acting this way, they're psychopaths. Are they in portrayal? Are the emotions that they're putting with each individual word appropriate for what's coming out of their mouth?
Okay.
Because you'll get some people, they'll say something and they'll put their like sad face on words that don't make sense. Or they'll put sad feelings to individuals that don't make sense. You're talking about a stranger and here you are about to cry about it. So it's like, there's some, I can understand you crying about the disease. Let's say it's a disease because you understand the disease, but Joe Blow over there, whom you have nothing to do with, why are you crying on his name? Why does he give you stress? Why is he, you understand what I'm saying? So it really is an art form. I look at body language reading as an art form. You map it out, see who you're dealing with. And it's like, what makes sense? What doesn't, what goes together? Does primer go with white?
Okay, that makes a certain amount of sense. Chase Hughes, who I've had on before, he mentioned another method is to make people tell the same story backward or in reverse order, because you practice. You've got your story, you've got your tale. I did this, and then this, and then this, and this. But if you say, okay, so what did you do before that? What did you do before that again? And what did you do before that? Is a tell
normal
sometimes.
person can sit there and usually come up with it, and they'll have to think about it.
Right.
Like my memory is always bad. It just is.
Exactly.
But sit there and think about it. Oh yeah. And then you've got the practiced liars who've told their story, and they're going to sit there, and the really good ones probably will still fool that person. But again, it's not a bad method, but at the same time, it's like, that takes a long time. And usually when you see the telltale markers for me anyways, it's like, yeah, I'm throwing that baby out with the bathwater.
Okay. I guess it's
not even worth my time, dude.
Because he would work interrogations. So that might be a factor on that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Is another possible tell an inappropriate amount of information, in sense of, if you go onto a scene and something just happened, it'll be like, I was walking down the street and all of a sudden this guy just ran out in front of me and da-da-da happened, versus, well, I got up at 10 o'clock this morning because I was feeling late. And, they tell you a whole chunk of the day before they actually get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on the situation. I think with cops and police, people feel like over-explaining, which is typically normal. And of course, normal conversation, people that are friends that you're comfortable with, the quick and easy story is because they already know who you are and what you do and why you would be so flustered of Jack flying out in front of you. You don't add that would make sense. Not over-explaining it. Over-explaining it to someone that's a friend, it's kind of like, why? Did that really happen?
Hmm. Well, I got a question from Ginny again. This gets into the current events, and with your husband being from England, maybe you're more in tune. A lot of people are calling Meghan Markle a narcissist. Do you have a thought on her? She is a hot button in England.
I have not seen enough of her to sit there and say, yeah, that's what she is. I sit there and so far have the points that I get from her is someone who lives in a world that is in our world. So I I can't really give. It would be like asking, from a 5-year-old's perspective, how do they see, their little world that they have? They never have any problems. Mom and dad is always there to take care of them. She's always got the money. She knows how to manipulate and control people, Harry,
Hmm.
and she's very good at it, and she's very beautiful. She's had a very easy life in the terms of that. She's got money, she's got power, and she's young. She has no wisdom and no time in life to see how to interact with normal people. So you can't really measure someone who's never been dipped into the real world to see how you deal with real people.
Interesting. What do you think of that situation at all? Or do you?
I think I hope that the monarchy falls. And not in the sense of, oh, I wish them ill will, but it's like they don't do anything. They really are just getting paid to do nothing. They don't help when it comes to governmental matters and things of that nature. So when I see the Markle Harry thing going on and the rumors that Charles was all excited they had a black person in the family now, so that the rest of England will enjoy them and be happy with them because now there's a black person. It's kind of like, yeah, you've gone so shallow. You do nothing for the country but raise money for charities that apparently don't give that much back. It's like, yeah, I kind of hope you fall. And as far as Meghan goes and Harry, I mean, the lot of them in general, all except for William. I think he had a lot more time with his mama, who showed him what it was to be poor, because there were a lot of stories her taken to the boys when they were young to the, I don't know what they call them over in England, but it's like they go and they feed the poor.
Some sort of shelter, probably. I don't know.
So I don't know what they had like a name for it. I don't remember what it was, but that's what she did to her boys. And I think William had the most exposure to it. These are what normal people do. They don't really care what your title is. They're struggling.
Right.
And I thank Diane for that one, or Diana, excuse me. And I think Harry has lived a very privileged life. And again, they're very out of touch with what it takes to survive in this world without somebody giving it to you. So you really can't call them psychopaths or narcissists when they've been given everything, because they have no idea what stress is.
Right.
They can't relate.
So they're sort of like the trust fund baby that is so spoiled and they wind up being an adult and miserable and getting in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's kind of like, you need some stress and you need to actually, because they're like, oh, we're going to make it on our own. I thought, that would be really good. I think that would be really good for their mentality. They would grow up. And then to find out that they're still taking money from daddy, it's kind of like, never mind. It's not going anywhere.
All right. Ginny's asking, Trump lies. Big ones or little ones? I'm not sure. Ginny,
I wouldn't call them, some of the lies, I wouldn't call them actual. You can be deceptive to deceive in a way to manipulate out of malice. Or you can be deceptive because you need that person to do something right now and they wouldn't do it if they knew. But it's not because it would be bad for them. Or you can be deceptive, as he's done quite a few times when it comes to military operations. One of my favorite ones, because I was so mad when I found out about it, was when they bombed the Syria air base. It was like one of those first airstrikes. And he's sitting there talking and he lied, and he was lying about it. I cannot remember the quote exactly. I did a video on it because all of a sudden It was one of those videos I did without watching it first. I was like, oh, this is good news because he's being deceptive there. And that means they didn't strike the airbase.
Oh.
And to find out about 2 days later, they didn't strike the airbase. They struck somewhere else, just near it. And he warned Russia so that they would tell Syria so that the Syrians and Russians would get out of the way. I was like, those are good deceptions. And then you got the deceptions that he does, and he doesn't do it much anymore. Because I sit there and I would tweet at him like, stop it, you moron. Stop it. This is a lie that they're going to find out. And it was more or less the economy. And if you've noticed the rhetoric, he's on about the Dow, right?
Mm-hmm.
On and about the Dow. But what he does add to it now, instead of, oh, this is so great, the Dow, he's going, your pensions are going up, your retirement's going up. And it's like, that's all true. But you need the American public to believe that the economy is going to boom forever.
Right.
Because if you've seen other little internet views that he's done that don't get a whole lot of airtime, he always talks about bringing back the gold standard. And I sit there and think, well, that would be good because this freaking debt bubble that we got and these people sending money to other countries to have it funneled back into their pockets is really bad. So if you've got a gold standard bag, it's kind of it is. It's harder to sit there and inflate money supply and keep creating it and funneling it back to yourself when you have to sit there and transfer with gold.
Well, sure. If you have a hard standard, whereas now they literally just print money ever since Jekyll Island.
Yeah. So I look at that as you need the American public to believe the economy is good at the moment. Because this is why I sit there and say this is why we live in the middle of nowhere, because pain's coming. That even if he gets the American public to prepare, and most Americans prepare, and I say this from the standard of looking at the English when I was over there and in Europe in general, prepping, why do we need an extra thing of salt? You're sitting there thinking, have you never had a storm? Most Americans at least have, a month's worth of food in their house. Whereas the Europeans, they have like a few days to maybe at the most a week. And the people who have a week's worth of food are weird.
Well, now, in fairness, Mandy, I don't think that Americans having a month's worth of food is necessarily preparation more than it is gluttony.
Maybe.
You do have a habit of, I'll have one of those. I'll have one of those. And then they all get in the car and we all buy everything from Costco and you can't walk out of there without $500 spent. So,
well, of course, but you know what I mean? It's like the American mindset of having extra is just like a normal thing, but regardless, pain's coming because when that gold standard hits, if that's what actually ends up happening. And I say, if, because I don't think anybody saw Corona coming.
Right.
So if that actually hits, it's kind of like, well, it'll turn money upside down. My husband and I debate whether it's going to be deflationary or inflationary, but I guess it really depends on how
or
and what standard I don't know. Is it only the physical dollar that will be able to be traded? What happens to all the digital dollars? Things of that nature. So it's kind of like, it's coming. You're not sure what's going to happen. And then, of course, you hear Trump talking about negative interest rates. He's being very honest. He wants negative interest rates. He's very truthful. And when you watch him, there's an urgency to it. Negative interest rates, refinance the American debt on negative interest rates. It's like, and my husband and I have a little back and forth debates on that, on the positives and then the negatives. The negatives would be that I'm sure the bank is going to charge me money to keep my money in the bank. How often and what they do on negative interest rates, I have no idea. The positives would be I am refinancing the house. Those kind of things. So it's just, I don't know. Pain's coming. Change in general creates pain because people don't like it. And that's what happens. And
True.
And you got Corona over there. There's nothing coming out. And I read an article. It was Market Watch. I don't remember where they got it from. But come mid-April, we're going to start seeing the empty store shelves if this continues.
Oh, yeah. Because I think Apple's already feeling it a little bit. Production is down. Manufacturing is down.
Oh, they were talking about Walmart and Target.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's like,
I'm
I don't think
sure.
it'll be food issues, but you can't go and get your paper plates anymore.
Oh, some American jobs will pick up.
Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping a lot of manufacturing has come back to either it fills the void or it's some minute stuff that you don't care if you miss or not.
Yeah, I guess it could be both. It has been said about Trump that he, it's a left-right thing, but essentially that the left takes Trump literally, but doesn't take him seriously, and the right takes him seriously, but they don't take him literally.
Oh yeah. He's got this song that he likes to play after every one of his rallies. And I always take that seriously because it's done purposely. Why would you do that? You don't always get what you want, but you may just get what you need.
The Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Surprised they haven't told him to pull it.
Yeah. Well, I know. But, he plays it every time. And it's kind of like one of his theme songs. It's like the beginning. It's the song. I cannot remember what it is, but it's a USA song. Not chant USA, but it's a patriotic song in the beginning when he walks out on stage every time. And then at the very end, you don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. And it's like, I mean, people should take that as he's trying to tell you something. The guy's a freaking genius. And I say this just from the simple fact, I don't know if you saw his tweet thing that he did.
Mm-mm.
How did he do that? But he had it where he got all these tweets from all these different accounts, and the beginning of each of the words was to a song. And somebody played it.
He was retweeting them or what?
He retweeted them, but in the retweets of their tweet, the beginning few words was to a song. So if you read the first few words on each tweet that he did that day, it was to a song. Can't bring me down or something. You can't bring me down.
Okay. That's different.
I was like, that's so weird. And that's when I started looking at him thinking, are you cute?
That sounds like something Scott Adams would have fun with.
It was so weird because I'd never thought of him ever actually doing that. It just seems like something that would be so far-fetched for, and how much isn't he almost 80? Like, he's an old man.
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, well, they're all up there. I mean, look at the top Democrat contender. Bernie's 80. I mean, it's like Joe Biden. He's old. Elizabeth Warren's old. I mean, it is all old people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
like, get out of here.
All okay,
Stop
boomer.
It. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. My
Now,
sister told us.
Back.
Okay, go ahead.
Kelly has a couple questions in here. She tying back Botox and lots of Xanax may be hard to read. Habitual liar. She's talking about easy for them to lie, aka narcissistic personality. Yeah, I guess so.
Botox. Well, I have dealt with a bunch of drug dealers in my life. Okay. And I don't know about the Botox. It's not like I actually get a bunch of Botox people. But the drugs, the Xanax, especially the downers. Yeah, I tell you what, when they're on the downers, they do struggle to come up with their lies because their brain doesn't work as fast. And that's what I can tell you with that one. And with the meth heads, they're thinking so fast. Oh, yeah. And then they go, oh, yeah. And, oh, yeah. And this happened. Oh, and this happened. The downers are like, oh, yeah, I know. What happened? Just tell me what happened. Oh, hold on. No. It's not hold on. Just tell me what happened. They really struggle to think.
And that was from when you were a cop or nurse or both?
That was my neighbors.
Well, now I know why you went to an extremely rural, another part of the country. Goodness. Let's see. Kelly said the chip, which is already in the USA, Switzerland uses the chip for payment now.
Oh, are we talking about the implant in the hand?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that there's a chip in credit cards,
Yeah, there's a chip in the credit card.
but I'm not sure. Um, Kelly, if you could tell us what you mean, that'd be awesome. Jenny's saying that Barr told Trump to stop tweeting. Yes, and Trump said, "Too bad I like Twitter." Essentially, it was an interesting reply because Trump is like, "Yes, I am making his job really hard for him, but I really like Twitter, and Twitter does allow me to communicate with people." So it's essentially, "Yep,
I don't
sucks
care
to
what
be
you
him."
You're making this hard, dude. Sucks to be you. You knew I was on Twitter when you took the job.
Oh, doubt I have a Jason C. Is Chinese face reading lines BS or some truth?
I've actually not heard of this.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
have not
sure.
heard of this.
Can you fill us in more, Jason? I don't
Makes
know
me
if
think
it's
of palm reading. Do you see my light?
yeah, or God, I forgot the name of it. My brain's shot today too, but there was a nice racist thing they used to do in the turn of the 20th century where
Oh, is this the bumps
phrenology.
on the head?
Yeah. When we could determine people's intelligence by the head shape and all that, horribly, horribly racist um, thing they were doing.
Or when they took the skulls of Caucasian, African, and Asian, and they filled it with rice to see whose brain cavity could hold more. And
Mhm.
scientists they found skewed it by
Right.
trying to shove as much rice into the Caucasian brain. Brain cavity can hold more in here. Shove it in there, dude.
Well, and the whole Caucasian thing is weird too because that's from the Caucasus region, and even that was there's a lot of weird things about race that people aren't getting right. For example, Kenyans and Caucasians are closer in DNA than Kenyans and Nigerians,
Yeah, that's weird.
but that show it's not necessarily relevant. It's just a pigmentation, things like that. Okay, see, Jenny, I'm not making a joke, being sincere. What is your take on Biden always touching the kids? So, what's your take
I
on
did a video. I
creepy
did a
old
video on
Joe?
that one. Creepy Joe Biden. It's power touches. He always. I just realized I have my glass things here. Power touching. That's what he likes to do. Is power touches because he doesn't just do it to kids. He does it to everyone. But kids are just easier for power touches. So if you got somebody who's always touching somebody
Mhm.
and they're putting their hands on you, and you don't fight back, that's power touch because he's doing things in public. The video I did explained it so much better because you could see the entire play. You got a family come up
Mhm.
and Joe Biden being himself in power because it's about power. It's not about actual the gratification of sex. Sex may be a tool in it, don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
it's not the feel good feeling, it's the power. So I have a family come up, the male or whichever one, either the mom or the dad, whichever one is showing to be dominant in the relationship, he zones in on that and tries to power over the strongest individual. And so, what do you do when you have a family and you're trying to power over them? You take their children. Because if I
Hmm.
got control of your children, I have control over you. And that's what he does. So, if you got just a guy and his wife, if I can take your wife from you, I've got control over you. I'm the power. I can do what I want. And you see him in the video that I did. That's what he does. He calls them out. He takes the kid over, pulls him over. I saw one woman who was not having it. And she had taken, I can't remember which senator it was. I wish I knew. But he brought the little girl over to her and she grabbed her little arm and drug her back over between mom and dad. So, power denied. And you know what? He didn't touch her anymore. Power taken
Hmm.
away. Mom is now the bullhead. And his interaction with the family from that point on was to face the mother and literally submit if it came to touching anyone else
Hmm.
in the family. Because I'm the dominant. I take protective control. Langford, he was a good one. I do remember that one. That's the Oklahoma senator. When it came to the power touching, he had his girls with him when he was getting sworn in. and he took control because Biden went after the wife and then after the girls to separate them. Oh no, you on this side, you on this side. And Langford took his girls and put them where he wanted them. And Biden didn't touch them anymore. Langford took control.
I've never heard this take on him. That's interesting. So it's not a, it is creepy, but in a different kind of way.
Yeah, the sex is not it's not the driver. It's the tool. Okay.
Mm.
The power is the driver. It's the feel good.
Interesting. Jenny said that Sessions smacked his hand away.
Yeah, he did. He's like, no. And you
Cracking
know
him up.
what? And it was funny because he sit there and he smacked his hands, and all of a sudden Biden puts his hands down, covering his crotch. It's like, oh, I won't touch. Don't touch a little girl.
Wow. That is crazy. Okay, Kelly came back. Chip parties, Wisconsin company, full blown chipped for vending machines to open doors, clock in and out, med chip in the forehead, text training in the ambulance already.
Okay, that is weird. I'm not putting nothing in my forehead.
No. Even if Elon makes it, right?
Even if Elon makes it. That actually does kind of make me sit there and think of the sign of the beast. And I take it all the way back to when I think it was Mythbusters. They did the RFID thing, and I remember them doing an after show little questionnaire about it and the issues that they had just being able to do the RFID and the myths on it being hackable and things of that nature. They couldn't really talk about it. Everything about this chip was controlled by the manufacturers. And I want to say government was involved there as well. But they couldn't, they were limited on what they could do. Needless to say, both of them said they do not trust it. But they couldn't tell you why. And it was like, So it's like, and it's been proven those things are very hackable. All you have to do is be in range.
Yeah, a lot of things are hackable. And then you have, of course, the RFID blocking wallets and things of that sort.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. I see we're out of questions and we're rolling into an hour. Now, you are currently selling training, or you have a subscription for bombardsbodylanguage.com, right?
Yeah, I do criminal, where I'll sit there and we'll just go over criminals. Those are the paywall ones. And then I show you and try to teach you how I see people so that you can learn how to read them, or at least start the mapping process, which right now we're working on personalities. Map personalities. It'd be easier once you figure out personalities to be able to figure out, what path you're going on as far as deception or just some weirdo.
Okay, so knowing the personality helps you find a baseline quicker, and then you can look for a deviation.
Oh yeah,
it's a way to
much
shortcut
better. Yeah, well, that's what we're working on right now. That's part of the series of learning that we're doing.
All right, well, when's that coming out?
Oh, it is coming out. That series is out. It's trickling out. We did. Oh my Lord, my brain fart has come in. We've done the prison thing that I just did for prisoners, and the prison riot that came out, and why the personalities and what went wrong, what happened, and why. And then we did the a personality on the psychopath, and then we did the personality. No, I haven't done that one yet, but we've gotten those two out. I'm still working on more. They just trickle out.
All right. Well, to end on a high note, Kelly wants to say that it is the sign. Keyword in the Bible is in the right hand.
Ah, yes. Isn't that where they're getting them at? In their hand? In the right one?
Probably. If you're right-handed and you want to manipulate things,
that would make sense. The right hand would be the place where you'd stick it. I wouldn't do that. I don't want. All I could sit there and think of is infection, and then having something I could never get back. And be like, "Oh, my money's gone, and it's under my skin."
On that heavy note, Everybody, thank you so much for coming on. Make sure you hit subscribe. I have a lot of other guests coming on.